Gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling. Much appreciated everybody making a little time out of their day to watch the video. No, it's optional. You guys don't have to do that. So thank you very much for supporting the channel and watching it there. Today we're going to be talking about what to do if you can't get anything working. If you're just out there fishing, nothing seems to be working, you're frustrated, you can't figure out what to do. We've all been there, so we're going to have a conversation about that and give you guys some tips and advice on some stuff that's worked for me. Real quick, guys, I just want to give everybody a big thanks. Everybody a thanks that's been supporting the channel by checking out our View Products tab. You know, when the video starts at the bottom of the screen, it says View Products. 30 products I put in there every day. You guys might be interested to check out. So thank you guys for checking those out. You don't have to buy anything, just looking at them. It's a good way to support the channel. It's much appreciated. Okay, guys, this is actually, I'm doing this video I'm in the middle of practicing for the TOTA Series tournament right now at Grand Lake. And this is sort of like, I'm talking to myself here a little bit, but I'm gonna give you guys sort of an example of what I'm talking about. The practice has been really tough on me. I caught one keeper the first day, one yesterday, and I caught 4 today. Super, super tough. So I'm sort of in that position with the advice that I'm going to give you guys on what to do if you just can't get anything working, and sort of give you guys my process that usually more than not works for me. Okay, there's a couple different elements here that you have to consider. A lot of it has to do with how much time you have to fish. I mean, I know all of us, it's not like we can go fishing every day, so you have to make the most of the time that you have. So a lot of these adjustments I'm going to talk about today, you may have to make them the same day you're on the water, or if you're fishing multiple days, you have a couple days to do that. So the time frame is all relative to how much time that you guys have to fish. There's really 2 primary things that you have to do, but there's some subsets to those primary things. And the 2 primary things is you have to either change the area you're fishing, or you have to change the technique that you're fishing. But there's a lot of different ins and outs of that, because a lot of times you can change the area that you're fishing just slightly. You may not have to make a big adjustment at all, and you know, it just turns the light switch on. And sometimes you have to go to the other end of the lake completely away from that. So here's some stuff that I do. First of all, one of the quickest ways that you can eliminate a lot of unproductive water is get in some of the major creeks on a lake. If you go into a major creek, there's going to be fish in there. There's guaranteed. There's big populations of fish in every major creek on a lake. So one of the quickest ways, if you don't have a lot of time, is to just pick out a major creek and just tell yourself, you know, this is my lake. This creek is the lake for me. I'm not going to get out of this creek. I'm going to stay in this creek. So the first thing you have to do, say for example, you're trying to catch them on an Alabama rig on secondary points, and that's not working. So you fish for 2 or 3 hours and you're not getting any bites on that. At that time, you have to decide, okay, do I need to make a lure adjustment change, or do I need to move shallower or deeper, or do I need to, you know, make a complete, you know, area adjustment or area change? A lot of that depends on how confident you are of the fish being where you're fishing. So let's go back to the point. Say you're fishing some points with an Alabama rig, and say you're seeing some fish on your graph. You're seeing some bait fish down there. Water clarity's good. Everything looks good. Conditions are good. Instead of bailing out on the points, you know, try something else. You know, maybe go up shallower and throw a crankbait, or maybe the fish aren't in a chasing mood. Try a shaky head or a football head jig before you abandon that. Because what you have to identify, guys, is you have to identify the mood and the personality of the fish. And sometimes those bass want to chase stuff. They're in the mood to chase. Other times they don't. They're not going to move very far for a bait. So if they're not biting that Alabama rig, like I said, get out your football head jig, drag it around for 15 minutes or so. I mean, if you got a good looking point, hit 2 or 3 points with a football head jig, spend 15 or 20 minutes on it. And if those fish are using that and they want that bait, more than likely you're going to get a bite or 2 doing that. So if that's not working, say you've tried several different techniques on the same body, on the same structure, that's when you have to make a move, an adjustment. So if you were fishing points, next thing you do is go to the back 2/3 of the coves and start fishing whatever targets are back there, whether it be laydowns or docks or rocky banks or whatever. Run 4 or 5 of those. See if that's working. If that's working, you can duplicate it. And if it's not working, then it's time to try something else. And, break down the creek in as many different possibilities if you have. If you fish the first 1/3 of the creek and can't not do any good, go into the very back of it and start fishing in there. But eventually what's going to happen is when you move around enough and you try enough techniques, you're going to find some fish. Eventually you're going to catch them. The only difference is how long it takes to do it. Sometimes you may figure it out in a couple hours. Sometimes it may take you, 3 or 4 days. I've practiced for 3 days down at Grand Lake and I still have not figured out the bait and the area I want to be in. Sometimes it's a long process. Sometimes you don't get it figured out in the time that you want. So the next thing with that, what to remember, sometimes if you're frustrated and you're losing patience, and we've all been there with that, and it's just nothing's going right. Sometimes it's good just to sit down the boat, take a deep breath, and completely change up everything. Let's say, for example, you were flipping boat docks, with a jig or creature bait, and you're just convinced that these fish are on, a jig and flipping a creature bait. Sometimes you have to make a complete change and you have to pull that spinning rod out and pick up a wacky rig and start skipping that wacky rig under those docks. Sometimes you got to pick up a little swim bait with it. But the main thing is you have to tell yourself that the fish are always biting, because they're always biting. Somebody in this tournament I'm fishing is going to catch a load come Thursday because they figured out the adjustment to make with that. And that's just a matter of experimentation. Very seldom do you start off right off the bat in the morning and figure it out. A lot of times it's a process of elimination. You look and you decipher the information that you have from what you can see on the water and make those adjustments. So the main thing, guys, just to summarize it, and I sort of broke it down with a little bit more detail there. If you're not catching them, either change up your technique, change up your color, change up your lure profile, change up your lure category, or make an area or structure adjustment. That works every time. It's the only variable or the only question about that is how long it's going to take for that to work. So and in the process of fishing, we're always trying to make that process as short as it can be. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it takes a while. That's why bass fishing is the toughest sport in the world. I say it all the time. Bass fishing is not easy. Those days that are easy, appreciate them because they don't come along very often. So anyway, hope it helps out. We'll talk later.